Superhero movies. Most of us love them, yet we've been bombarded with a plethora of these films, with the studios releasing superhero movies at a rate of about 2 films a year. But why the sudden explosion? What started this sudden interest? And we know there is a massive interest, as the theatres are always full, drawing in comic book fans and casual moviegoers alike. Let's go back a bit to 1978, when Superman was released. It starred Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, Marlon Brando, and was directed by Richard Donner. The film was a cult classic, and is still regarded as one of the best Superman films in the Man of Steel's cinematic history. The movie had 3 successful films in the franchise up until Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. The 4th film achieved the same thing as Doomsday did in 1992. It killed Superman. The movie was just awful. But just like the comics, Superman was revived in 2006 with the movie Superman Returns. Although it was decent, it failed to turn into a new franchise. 2013 saw a reboot entitled Man of Steel, but I'll get to that momentarily. Another well-established character was Batman. Although Adam West played Batman in 1966, many fans fondly look back to the 1989 film starring Michael Keaton and directed by Tim Burton. It was dark, it was gloomy, it had a gothic feel, and yet it felt like it was adapted perfectly from the comics. 1992 saw Batman Returns, once again directed by Tim Burton, and once again was quite successful. But the studios felt that Tim Burton's Batman was just too dark and not child-friendly. So they hired Joel Schumacher to direct the 3rd film, Batman Forever. It was more colourful and had more of a comic book feel, and the fans weren't too happy, but they seemed to accept it. Then Batman and Robin came out, probably one of the worst movies in superhero history. Then again, if Tim Burton's Superman, which would have starred Nicolas Cage, was ever made, then Batman and Robin would have been the 2nd worst. Anyway, just as Bane broke Batman's back, Batman Forever broke Joel Schumacher's career, and he has never really recovered from that stint. This basically showed that superhero movies were short-lived and belonged in print form. Sam Raimi had some success with Spider-Man, which was well received and seemed to spark some interest in the superhero genre, but there's always been a mess there with Sony being involved with the rights. But then something happened. In 2005, Christopher Nolan directed Batman Begins. It took the hero genre in a whole new direction. The movie was dark, it was gritty, and most importantly, it was grounded in realism. It was a fresh start, and it was just what the superhero industry needed. It also saw superhero movies move in a more realistic direction. With the popularity of the DC character and the improvements in technology, Marvel unleashed a massive plan in order to dominate the superhero industry. They created the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They started in 2008 with Iron Man, which was known as Phase 1. They released numerous superhero films which built up and teased the audience with the Avengers in every movie. Now, Phase 1 was complete with the release of the Avengers. Phase 2 then kicked off in movies such as Iron Man 3, Thor, The Dark World, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, and it will end with the Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, at which point Phase 3 will start with Captain America 3, due for release next year. Not to be outdone, DC has finally decided to jump on the bandwagon and released Man of Steel in 2013. As I mentioned earlier, this is a reboot, and although it was received with a mixed reaction, the film was successful in keeping the realistic feel going. Man of Steel is also the first in a number of DC movies. The sequel, Batman vs. Superman: The Dawn of Justice, will be out next year, and this will be the start of DC's own superhero group known as the Justice League. And they'll be releasing plenty of films from now up until 2020 and probably further. We'll be treated to films such as The Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, Shazam, Cyborg, Green Lantern, and a Justice League movie which will be split into 2 parts. So whether you like it or not, superhero movies will be around for quite a while. There are a few other movies that fall outside of the cinematic universe, such as the X-Men, and there's a Fantastic Four reboot due in August this year, although honestly, I don't really have my hopes up for the Fantastic Four movie. The question remains though, what happens after Marvel is done with Phase 3? Will the plethora of films start to decline? Or will they turn to lesser known comics like they did with Guardians of the Galaxy? We will just have to wait and see. My name is David Braz, and thanks ever so much for watching my video on superhero movies. If you liked what you see and want to see more, then please hit that subscribe button.